there's an individuality in each of us, and as a choral leader now, I have to, or I want to, or there's a need in me to accept everybody. No matter who you are, you've got a voice. So whether your voice is, you think it's a little scratchy or you think it's out of tune, it's very unique to me, and therefore I accept it with open arms. Come on in, be part of this.
Those are the words of Mark De Lisser, today's guest on This Is Why We Sing, Episode 1. I couldn't think of anyone better than Mark to kick off this new podcast series, and I know that you're going to love hearing what he's got to say. My name's James Sills, and I'm here to help spread the word about singing and how it can help us lead happier, healthier, and more fulfilling lives. That's why I set up this podcast, and I invite you to join me across 6 episodes for this first series to hear conversations from people across the singing world, to share their inspiration and to share their insights. Mark De Lisser is today's guest, and I've been a huge admirer of Mark's work for many years. He's a renowned choral director, vocal arranger, teacher, mentor, and TV presenter. His last 2 TV series, The Street at Christmas and My Dementia Choir, I found incredibly moving. And we talked about these in the conversation, as well as many more things, including his background in gospel music, how singing might be the new church, and of course we talked about his arrangement of Stand By Me, sung at the royal wedding in 2018. Mark is one of life's good guys. This conversation left me feeling really energised, and I hope it will do for you too. We recorded this conversation in January 2021 when Mark and I had been leading singing sessions online for almost a year due to coronavirus. And so this is how our conversation begins, talking about singing at this very testing and unusual time. But then our conversation opens out to all those other things that I've just described. I do hope you enjoy it. Welcome to the podcast, Mark. Thank you so much for giving up your time.
Nah, it's a pleasure, man.
I feel like we've got so much to talk about, but the first question I'm going to ask you is, what song's in your head right now?
Oh my God. Feeling Good, Nina Simone.
Nice. Any particular reason?
No, you just asked me and I was just like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I think that's, it's just like birds flying high. It's just that kind of, you know what? We're in a place right now where we have to embrace what is in front of us, right? And I think that song says everything, that the birds are flying high. You know how I feel. Do you know what I mean? It's like we are feeling good. And regardless of whether you are actually physically feeling good, I think we have to almost say to ourselves, we are feeling good, and therefore just embrace what is in front of you and just don't run from it. So yeah, I think that's where it's at for me right now.
Like a self-fulfilling prophecy almost.
100%. Man, we got to talk ourselves into believing it's all good, right? I mean, it's mad, crazy time, but we really do have to, kind of talk ourselves into it. And, we'll talk more about this, man, but singing is that thing, isn't it? Because it kind of resonates throughout the whole entire body. And I think that we can sing things over and over again until the body starts to go, oh yeah, that's right. I'm feeling great. I'm having a good time. Even actually, we're really not. But I think it has the power to do that.
Well, do you know what, I joined you a few weeks ago for one of your online sessions, and we sung Lifted by the Lighthouse Family. And it absolutely did that, with 45 minutes, and I just felt great afterwards,
Yeah.
And I wasn't feeling great beforehand, and it's one of those things that you can almost kind of tell yourself the right messages.
Yes. Yeah. And it's the lyric, isn't it? And what I think, and it's funny because we have this conversation. I mean, as I grew up in church, right? So we have this conversation a lot, or have been having it for many years. That gospel is very repetitive. Very repetitive. It says the same thing over and over again. And if you're in a live gospel concert, trust me, they're going to go round and round that little turnaround section for ages. Do you know what I mean? Until by the end of it, you're just like, oh man, you really do feel high. Now, the beauty of that song, Lifted, is that it says lifted. Just constantly.
Exactly.
Lifted. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like constantly, kind of poking it into you. Like, here we go. This is the sound. This is the word. And therefore, by the end of it, you've done what it's asked you to do, which is feel lifted.
It's almost like an affirmation.
100%. Which is what they do. This is what church is all about. Do you know what I mean?
And there's also that thing of when you're vamping around something that you can kind of lose yourself as well musically, because I think, so much of the time when people approach singing, there's so much going on, like in the monkey mind, like, am I doing this right? Am I getting the words right? Is this the right section?
Yeah.
But when you come to a groove and you can just keep on riffing around it and maybe start to improvise, there's a sense that you kind of lose yourself to that moment, right?
You do. And actually you become so much more comfortable and relaxed in that. You're not, like you said, you're not worried about what you should be singing or how it should sound or whatever. You are just relaxed and allowing all of that sound to come out of you. So it is doing something emotionally to you, it is making you feel whatever it is you're singing, that is the truth, And so, yeah, man, it's a beautiful, really beautiful thing. And I think that was a really powerful session for me. I mean, so many messages came afterwards of people just saying that, that made them feel great for their day and, for their week as well. So, yeah, man, singing is important. It has to be continued. And
so I get a sense that kind of song choice is really, really important to you when you're approaching your sessions or approaching your choirs.
Yes. They have to be songs. I mean, there's a few things. The majority of the songs that I will do, people will know or have heard on the radio. And so that's the first barrier kind of gotten rid of. It's just like, oh, okay, I kind of know this song. You've heard it, and so therefore you can sing it. And then it's also about the lyrics and how the lyrics make you feel and what they speak, what the messages are in those lyrics. And if the lyrics are positive or hopeful, or songs about love and joy and peace and happiness, then you know what? Those are the songs that I'll be using for the rest of this time that we are in lockdown. And what I have done for the past, nearly coming up to a year now, I've just used those songs because it just says all the right things. And it just makes people feel in the way that I want people to feel, which is, what? We are going to get through this. No matter what, we got to stay together with each other. We're going to feel good. Do you know what I mean? These are good times. I mean, I did good times the other day. Do you know what I mean? And, are these the good times? But the more you sing it, good times, it's just like, oh, actually.
We can all find the good times, even if it's just half an hour a day of singing with you or doing whatever, connecting with our families.
Yeah.
And I think that's a reminder for people. Like, for me, the singing experience is always so much more than about the singing. It's kind of like these little reminders, like you are capable of feeling joy, you are capable of reaching out, and I think in these times that we're living through, that's more important than ever.
No, totally agree, man. And you do find that in the sessions, people I always ask the question, like, is this now a different song for you? Because one of the things that I believe is that we can just sing songs just for the melody and the lyric and get away with it, and it'd be like, okay, that was nice. But actually, I always say, apply this to your life right now. Apply it to your life. Does it tell your story right now? And if it does, then use that. If it doesn't, then how could it? And then when you start asking those questions, the song just becomes a whole completely different thing to people.
Yeah, it's a powerful process.
Yeah, it really is. And I the thing is, I did it once and I was just like, oh, that was powerful. And I thought, oh, I must change that. But I just can't stop. I have to always ask the question. So I say to people, whenever they come on, I said, if you're new to this, please understand that, what, this is what we do. And so therefore I can't just sing a song because it's a nice song. I've got to sing it because it means something. And if it doesn't mean something now, then by the end of it, it will mean something to them.
And from my experience of running online singing sessions with the sofa singers, it kind of feels like everyone's a little bit more kind of open. Everyone's kind of a little bit kind of heightened in terms of emotional states. And so actually you've kind of got the capacity to take people a little bit further there.
100%.
Than perhaps before.
Yeah, and they're by themselves. They're sitting at home. They're in their rooms by themselves, or with people that they love, So it's a comfortable environment for them to really explore how they do feel about a song like that.
Exactly.
Or whatever the song might be. Because when you're in the live with other people around you, it's almost difficult. You find the same people saying the same things. Do you know what I mean? If you say, how do you guys feel about this song? And the same people put their hands up. But the people who don't, they do feel something. but they're just probably unwilling to say it in that forum. But when they're by themselves, it's just like, cool, take yourself off mute and say what you want to say. Because there's a power, right? Because there's a screen. It's like, you're not actually here. It's not real. Well, it is real, but it's a safer environment for them to share.
It's very interesting, Mark, isn't it? Because I think like myself, when lockdown happened last March, there's like a knee-jerk reaction. We need to keep our communities together. We'll get together on Zoom, and it'll be a bit like a singing party and whatever. But actually, now we're almost a year in. We're just seeing these multiple layers of benefits and nuance, and actually creating new ways of reaching people. Like, could you have foreseen that? Did that even go through your mind?
It did right at the beginning when we got into this, and they said that we couldn't sing in spaces as choirs anymore. I remember coming here to my studio one day, and I just thought, no. This can't stop. We have to continue this. And actually, as a choir leader, I feel responsible for keeping these people connected. And I put a message out to say to all choir leaders, get involved, get you guys connected, do it over Zoom or however you do it, but just keep them connected. Because in my heart, it was like, I know the benefit of having people in a room. I know the benefit that they find with other people. And whilst we can't do that, if we take our foot off the gas and just go, I can't do it anymore, and then we sit down and do nothing, those people lose connections. And so, yes, from the start, I thought one of the most important things, and I've done a whole thing on loneliness and isolation. One of the things that I've always said is that just a little bit of maybe a 45-minute connection with people throughout the week is enough. It's enough just to make someone, just give them that boost that they need for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 days or whatever, and then they go in again. So yeah, I saw it from the start really. And one thing that I was doing termly. So I was doing every 10 weeks with my choirs. And so at the end of the 10 weeks, I think it was into Easter, they said, right, okay, how many weeks have we got off, Mark? And I said, we haven't. I said, I'm not stopping.
You're going to plow on through.
We're going to plow on through because this is important for everybody. It's not just the thing of, okay, some people aren't able to come. It's like everything is locked down. So we must continue. So yeah, I saw it early and that's one thing I just said, I'm going to continue going. And I have, I've done however many sessions, I can't think.
And I remember seeing that Instagram post actually, and I felt really, it kind of really affirmed what I was thinking as well, Mark, because there were a lot of people as well, a lot of choir leaders who were saying, well, look, if we can't be in a room, we can't create the harmonies, we can't do it as we've always done it, therefore let's stop. And I thought, this is missing the point.
Yeah,
or at least
totally.
It's missing the point for the reason that I'm motivated to get people together to sing.
Yeah, well then you've got to ask, and you're right, you've got to ask yourself what's motivating you. Do you know what I mean? No, I love harmonies. You know what I mean? All day long, man. I love to hear a harmony from 20 voices in a room. I love that. But if I can't get that, then that's about me. Do you know what I mean? That's about me. That's what I want.
Yeah,
see?
Exactly.
But actually, what do the other people want? Do they just want to... And, some people don't like Zoom and they've tuned out and that's absolutely fine. But they know that we're there every week, and they can drop in as and when. But the other people who just want to see a couple of small faces on a screen and sing on mute, as loud as they want to, but see other people bopping around going, oh, wow, this is really cool. I'm really enjoying this, right? And see those smiling faces. That is connection enough. For what we are, where we are right now, it's connection enough.
Exactly. And like you say, you've explored this idea of loneliness. It was 2019, your program, right? The Street at Christmas. Yeah. Now, I watched that and I was just like nodding and grinning all the way through. Because for me, that was the first time I ever saw a program on TV around singing where it actually addressed a kind of a social problem first, and then it looked at singing as a remedy, right?
Yes.
So you started off with the fact that loneliness is epidemic, that it can touch people of any demographic, I thought it was really powerful how you went to rural communities, you were in the cities, you were with young people, with old people, and you said, look, this is a problem, and in the position that I'm in as a singing leader, I can help address this. Now, for me, that was really, really powerful. I wonder if you could maybe just talk a little bit about that, maybe about that process, whether that came from you or if it was the TV company, because the way that was framed felt so important to me.
Yeah, so the initial idea was me just kind of saying, look, there are so many people out there who can be connected through singing. And, a lot of it came from my singology choirs, right? That was more the idea, because I had people coming into my sessions having never sung before, but needing human contact, right? Now you see them come in and they're like, I'm not really a singer, but they love the human contact. But then what happens is the singing brings something else out of them. So they have that human contact, but then the singing kind of starts to develop this sense of belonging, because everybody is doing it together. And I just thought, well, this is really interesting. And so when we started talking about ideas, I said, well, I really want to see if we can get people from all over, touch people who are in need of this human contact, but maybe aren't willing enough or have the strength enough to get out. So let's go to them. And so that's very, very much what we did. And it was an incredible process to see the amount of people that we were able to touch. There was people that we couldn't even involve in, so many people were there and willing to be involved in the show, but we couldn't get to everybody. But it was so interesting because whilst one of the most fascinating things for me was seeing people in the city, who are working in jobs in, buildings where there's, 1,000 people. And they are saying that they're lonely. And when you dig a little deeper, you see that they're living by themselves, They've moved away from their parents' home and they're living by themselves. They haven't really made any friends. And when they go to work, the friends that they have at work aren't actually their friends. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They are acquaintances at work that you spend time with in those 8 hours, and then you go home. And you don't call them again. You just see them the following day. So yes, there is a level of friendship there. But we were saying, actually, in the choir, there is a deeper connection. There's a deeper connection that you get when you are sitting with somebody, singing with somebody, and the hope is that you would maybe go running with that person, or you might go on have a play date with your kids with that person. Those are the opportunities that I wanted to give all of these people, so that it improves their lives, And by and large, it really, really did. And there was no competition about it. There was no like, I want you to sing better, do you know what I mean? Or I want you to be I just want you guys to get together and have a good time. That's
right.
It.
Okay. Exactly. And this is another reason, Mike, why I think that series was so powerful, because it kind of removed the element of competition, the element of jeopardy, will they, won't they, which we see so much with singing on TV. And I actually think that that can be quite paralyzing for people who want to engage in singing. And so what you're talking about is just making it as open as possible, like saying, just come on into this world. I know how great it is, but let's kind of start to remove some of these obstacles. And so I guess as a singing leader myself, like, I think we've touched on it, but what are some of the things that we can do as singing leaders, and hopefully there'll be other singing leaders who are listening to this podcast? What can we do to help invite more people into this world? Because we've talked about all these benefits so far. I mean, we've touched on them. We haven't got time to talk about all of them. The endorphins and all the physical things that go on. But what can we do to just bring people into that space in the first place?
There's a need to remove from our minds this idea of perfection, right? And I say this all the time, that it doesn't matter if they're singing right, cool. If they're not singing right, cool. Yeah. Let people just be. Let them just sing. I have so many people over the years have joined my choirs, and they can't pitch very well. And that's fine. That's fine. You just sit beside this guy who sings really loud, and I'm sure over the next few months you're gonna start to pitch a little better than you are. But
exactly.
It's cool. Do you see what I'm saying? But you see, the thing is, I never make that an issue. I'll never call it out. And I think I had a really brilliant example of this, is allow people to be who they are. In my singology choir in Wimbledon recently, there's a guy called Peter. Absolutely love this guy to bits, right? I love them all. And he said something the other day which absolutely broke my heart. It was over Zoom. He just released a single. You know, he got onto a bit of a kind of course thing, and they recorded a song, or he wrote a song, they recorded it, and he released this single, and he put it out, and you know, told the group about it on WhatsApp, and we were just all like, "Oh man, this is amazing, Pete. This is great. You know, you've done so great." And he came back and said, "Thank you guys for filling me with confidence." Right? So we were like, "Oh yeah, cool, yeah, anytime, man. That's what we do." And then he says, "Please understand that you guys are very special, and this doesn't always happen." And we were like, "What?" So then he went on to say that he's in our choir, Singology, and he's in another choir. And he said that, okay, so let me give you a little bit of Peter, right? Peter sings with his heart on his sleeve, right? And his voice is very loud, yeah? And I love it. And there are moments in my vocal coach brain where it's just like, "Oh, we can do something with that." And I'm like, "No. I'm just going to let him be who he wants to be." And he said that in the message. He said, "Thank you for never telling me to sing quieter. I know I've got a loud voice, but thank you all. In my other choir, they tell me that all the time and really beat me up for it," right? And it broke my heart, but also made me really happy that my dream of just allowing people to be who they are was absolutely coming true in that moment. And it broke my heart because I can't bear the fact that there are other people that are going to stop somebody from doing what they want to do, using their singing voice in the way that they know, in the way that they enjoy, in the way that releases all of that emotion out of them. You're going to try and stop that. That's what broke my heart. But at the same time, bittersweet, I guess, that my dream is always, and this is my word to all singing leaders out there, just get people in a room and let them be and sing, or not even in a room, over a Zoom call now, Jesus.
The room, the Zoom.
The room, the Zoomy room, right?
Yeah.
Let them be who they want to be, and let them sing how they want to sing. Guide them as much as you can, but don't break them. Don't break them. Let them be who they are.
And I guess also like meet them where they are, exactly. You know, recognize them, recognize what they need, recognize, you know, who they are as people, where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And just as you're telling me about Pete, I was thinking about a guy, Stuart, who's another legend of one of my choirs. He sings in a choir I run in Wrexham, which is called the One Love Choir, and it's a choir for people who've experienced homelessness and other forms of marginalisation.
Right.
And he's another belter, you know. And when we're performing, you know, all the joy, you know, is emanating from Stuart and ripples out, you know, and. The temptation to say, you know, let's try and blend a bit more, you know, which is our kind of singing leader head on, and then you've got your kind of actually this is a human being with, you know, he's expressing himself here, and you know, so there is this kind of internal struggle sometimes, but for me, you know, people have to win out in the end. Yeah,
and they always do, because really, guys, you know, singing isn't. How can I put this? Singing is saving lives, right?
Yeah,
singing together is saving lives. Yeah, it's also it's not killing anyone. I guess what I'm saying is this: someone singing loud ain't gonna kill you.
Yeah, exactly.
But actually, that person who's singing loud might need to be saved. Do you see what I'm saying? Their lives might need
exactly.
To be saved.
Just to release, just to experience that physical release, that emotional release.
Yeah. You know, nobody's, you're not going to die because somebody's singing loudly, man. Come on. Just do this. Think about the people. It's all about the people. I have a thing where I tell my teams, and it's all about, my thing over the past 2 or 3 years has all been about what I call servitude, right? And the idea of servitude is Mark De Lisser, as the owner of Singology, I serve my tutors, and my tutors are just like, what are you talking about? I said, I serve you. I want to know what do you need? What can I give you to do your job, right? And they were, oh, okay, so we might need this. I said, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to do that for you. And as much as I can, I will check in with them to see if they're all right and make sure that, you know, they've got everything they need. And then the next layer is I'm serving them so that they can serve the people. Because the people are the most important element of Singology.
Of the equation, yeah.
If they're not there, singology is not there. And so therefore we have this spirit of servitude that says, I am giving of myself to help my tutors so that my tutors can then give of themselves to help the most important element in the equation, which is the people. And so therefore that is what we must be doing all the time. If we, because there's a diagram, right? This hierarchical structure, which is a pyramid with the apex at the top. I flip that over, yeah? And the apex is at the bottom. That's me, right? And I underpin everything that goes upwards, and it fans out to the people being right at the top, okay? And they are the most important people in singology.
Not Mark De Lisser at the top.
Not me. No. I am not. I am the servant, and I serve. That is what I'm here to do.
Now, in 2018, you were serving some fairly important people, right? Talking about Stand By Me.
Oh, man.
Where do we start with this? I mean, I read somewhere that you had to go back 10 or 11 times before you got the arrangement that Harry and Meghan were happy with.
Yeah, so many conflicting stories. I mean, it was a number of times.
Let's get it from the horse's mouth. 2018, you were contacted by Buckingham Palace? By Karen Gibson of the Kingdom Choir.
So yeah. So I used to sing in Kingdom Choir years and years ago. I mean, I was part of the first Kingdom Choir when Karen gave them the name, and we went to Songs of Praise to do some stuff. And so anyway, she called me. She got a call from the palace saying, could you sing at the wedding? And she said, okay, yes. What kind of music? And they said, oh, they want Stand By Me. And so she called me. And she said, hi, how are you? I said, yeah, I'm fine, thanks, Karen, how are you? She goes, yes, do you know the song Stand By Me? Of course you do, yes you do. Could you do an arrangement for me? I said, yeah, all right. Who's it for? What's it for? Wedding? She goes, yeah, it's for a wedding. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. And she said, but I want you to sing at the wedding as well. And I was like, yeah, but I don't need to, I'm not even sure I'm free. To be honest, I wasn't free. That date I wasn't free. I was supposed to be in Ireland. So I said, anyway, Karen, I can't make it, but I can do the arrangement. I'll send you the arrangement, and yeah, blah. And she said, anyway, Google the date, because I think you might want to change your plans. That's what she said. So I didn't, actually. I didn't Google the date. I just got on with the arrangement. And then about a week later, I Googled the date, and I was just like, oh, all right. Okay. And honestly, I said, if the choir that I was going to work with in Ireland weren't free on the Sunday, then I just wouldn't be at the wedding. But I called them and I said, listen, I've got something. Is it possible we could move to the Sunday? And they were just like, yeah, fine. Sunday works. So I was like, okay, cool. So anyway, this is a long story short, but what happened is I got the brief for the song and I created the arrangement based on the brief.
And do you mind me asking what the brief was? I mean, in terms of like a musical brief or almost like a spiritual brief, or
no, it was just some words.
Right. Okay.
And the words were all a bit like, can it start softly and then build into something? And that was it. That was kind of all we got. And so I started, and it started softly. I think it was even a tempo actually, kind of con voce, and then it went into what I would consider to be high gospel. Do you know what I mean? Hand claps and bass guitars and blah. And
kitchen sink.
all everything. I threw it. I'm going to release that. I'm going to release the arrangement one day. I'm going to release.
Brilliant. I'd love. The evolution of it.
Yeah. So anyway, so in my head now, for those of you who don't know, right, I do a load of choral arrangements. Got a whole load of books out there, and I say that because when my publisher comes to me and says, "Can you do a book?" I'm like, "Yeah, cool." They give me some songs, and I pick the songs that I think are going to work. I do the arrangement. I send them back to them. We record them. They put the dots go in the book, and that's it. Every so often, the publisher might go, that line there. Is it possible we could just kind of maybe shift that down? You know what I mean? Can we kind of, put a different inversion in that? And I go, yeah, okay, cool. Every so often. So in my head, when I've done an arrangement for Prince Harry and Meghan, I'm like, cool, I'm just going to send it off and then that's it. It's what's going to be sung on the day. Yeah, so great, job done. And then the word came back, no. This is not it. I'm like, what? Wow. So anyway, I did version 2. Again, now, James, you'll understand this. I wasn't taking version 1 and tweaking it. I was taking version 1, deleting it, and starting
again.
So I was changing keys, I was changing time signatures, I was changing feels. There was an a cappella one in there at one point. A couple of them had a full band, a couple of them were just piano. And so there were so many. So we got to version 7 and they said no. And at which point I was like, well, I need a meeting, because as a creative, you're just like, well, I'm kind of almost arranging in the dark here. I don't really
throw me
know.
a bone here. Come on.
Yeah. So anyway, so I thought they were going to say no, but they said yes. And we went to the palace, as it were. And we sat down with Harry and Meghan and we had a chat.
Wow.
And it was really cool, man. They were very clear on what they wanted. And one of the things that resonated with me on the day was how down to earth they are. But also the fact that Meghan said it just needs to be something that her in-laws to-be can understand. Do you know what I mean?
Interesting.
And I was like, I get it, because the high gospel stuff, I get it. I love it. A lot of people get it, but the Queen, bless her, probably wouldn't get where I was going with it. Do you know what I mean? So I went away, and then there was another, 5 versions until we got to the church, the chapel on the Friday for rehearsal. That was version 12. And then on the way in on the Saturday morning for the actual wedding, that was version 13. And the change between 12 and 13 was that this is so complex to describe. But anyway,
no, I'm loving this. It's fantastic. Keep going.
Version 12. Which is the one that they said was, yes, this is kind of... there's a little bit of the story that I'm missing out for a specific reason.
We'll do another podcast, Mark. I could talk about this all day, the whole story. You can play me all the versions.
I will. But then, so between 12 and 13, 12 was quite staccato, right? Mm-hmm. And 13, on the coach in, I was just like, no, we've got to change this. There's got to be some movement. So it was almost, stand by me. That's how it was. Mm-hmm. Stand by me. Uh-huh. That's what was happening, like right? So hits. On the way down, I said to Karen, So on the way down, I said to Karen, carry those 3. So it's stand by me. So when you watch the video, you'll see Karen doing this, because this is no more than like 3 hours before had we made this change. You understand?
This is so fascinating.
So, and then literally that was that. And it was a crazy day, because I'd done so much work and kind of been beaten up quite severely emotionally, really, and I was quite down, actually. I'm very proud that it was done, but throughout the process I'd become quite down, and so
just because you kept getting your ideas kind of rejected, and
as an arranger you're just like, well, am I any good at this? Do you know? And then what people don't tell you, and again, why would they, but in the chapel you're not allowed to applaud. Right?
Of course.
So at the end of the performance, we were at the back of the church. So everybody has turned round, kind of spun in their seats to look at us. When we finished, to complete and utter silence, and they just turn to look forward again. So as a performer, you're just, as an arranger of this song that's, in this wedding, I'm like, obviously they thought it was terrible.
You're just not getting anything back.
Just nothing. It was nothing. Yeah. They just turned round. No applause. Nothing. We went and sat down, and I remember sitting there just thinking, okay, that's it. That's the end of me. Literally. And then it all blew up after that. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Is history. Well, Mark, it may not have been version 1, 2, or even 10, but I think it is a thing of real beauty.
Bless you.
Bless
you. Thank you.
Just the stillness of it. I was listening to it this morning as I was out for a walk, and just the meditative quality of it is just, it is like a reminder that we can stop and be in the moment. And, as soon as those piano chords just open at the beginning, it invites you to be still. And, we spoke earlier about the idea of kind of repetition and it being quite hypnotic.
Yes.
And when we kind of go in full pelt. But actually, there's something really beautiful about that when things are stripped right down as well.
Oh man, tell me. I learned a massive lessons throughout that process. And it's not something that I speak about all the time, but when you're putting something out to the world like that as musicians, we want our musician friends to go, oh wow, that was brilliant, man. Oh, what you did with that. Oh, you see that transition from there to it was just we want that. But actually the process taught me that, and I say this all the time, and so I just got sucked back into an area that I talk against all the time, and that area is that actually we're creating for people who may not necessarily be high-end, top-end musicians. And actually what we have to create is something that they can understand. You know, the musicians of the world, the brilliant musicians of the world, brilliant though they are and we are, make up a smaller percentage of the entire population of the world. And so really, if we're creating just for them, then we're creating for the minority, when really we should be creating for the majority.
And this is going back to that idea of servitude as well.
Yes, 100%.
Because I've got to say, I've taught your arrangement to many, if not all of my choirs.
Yeah.
You know, including NHS choir, the homeless choir I mentioned in Wrexham, and you know, it has the same effect. That arrangement has the same effect on all of them. It kind of allows people just to pause and be in the moment and breathe. And I just wanted to thank you for that.
No, it's an absolute pleasure, man. And about a year previous to being asked to do that, I remember I'm quite a spiritual guy, right? So I remember being in here in my studio and just saying to God, you know what, God, I'd really love to arrange something that the world hears, you know. And so asked, so given, really. But it was about something that the world, anybody from wherever you are can understand and get and hear and enjoy, and that's absolutely what happened.
So you've mentioned your spirituality, your faith there. I heard you say once that choir is the new church.
Oh man, wow! Well, you've heard a lot of stuff. No, I believe it is. And I tell you for why. I mean, geez, man, we could talk for hours, James. Seriously, but I'm gonna go too deep into this. But my experience at church was good and bad. I think I took a lot of the music, a lot of the harmony, a lot of the singing, and a lot of the stuff that I am today. I am a lot today because of experiences that I've had at church. But there were some negatives as well, and the negatives were that it wasn't that inclusive. It wasn't a place where, you know, anybody could turn up and feel accepted and wanted and loved. Mm-hmm. Even though that's what it should be. Yeah, and that's one criticism that I would have. Don't get me wrong, people are lovely and we're all flawed in many beautiful, wonderful ways. But I always felt that what I wanted in a church, I would try and produce in a choir. And that is meaning that anybody can walk through the door. Anybody can feel, and as you walk through the door, you should feel warm, welcomed. Feel like you're home. Really, that is how you should feel. And so I do see the choir as a new church, because I'm not sure how many people are going to church these days. But if you ask them if they're in a choir, oh yeah, I go to choir every week. You know what I mean? And so actually, it is the thing that we used to do as youngsters growing up, go to church every week. That people are now going to choir every week as opposed to church, which I think is still a really good thing. Why? Because they're staying connected, and that is what needs to happen.
Exactly, and there are so many reasons for the decline of traditional communities, and we've talked about the rise of loneliness, and I think. If you look at church attendance today as opposed to, 40 or 50 years ago, certainly, numbers are much, much smaller. I grew up in my village church. That was my way of kind of connecting with my local community. And so, I kind of felt that bond of community when I was growing up.
Yes.
For me, going to church in my rural village was actually kind of just part and parcel of being in that community. Yeah. But I think that's why choirs are so important now, because a lot of these traditional places where community was built. I mean, we might even be seeing it even more now. Everyone's working at home remotely, so even the workplace, that is now starting to dissolve. And I think when things unlock, I don't think people will go back working, in the same physical space in the same way.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think you've hit the nail on the head there. That the church was kind of the bedrock of the community. You know, it's where we all found each other and found strength in that, which is not happening anymore. And therefore, that's where I say the choirs have kind of taken over. I mean, I know that there's a few of our choirs, our choir branches across London. We have more members in the choir on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, whatever it might be, than they do have on a Sunday morning. You know, and that says everything. That people do still want to feel connected through community, but actually it's not the church. The church is doing part of it, of course, but it's not like, you know, years ago when everybody was there on a Sunday morning and there were no real community choirs. There were church choirs. Do you know what I mean? Which happened on, you know, maybe Sunday evening or Saturday evening or whatever. But now it's the community choir that is, for me, the thing that's keeping communities together.
And what do you think life will look like, you know, when we emerge, we are able to come together physically to sing, that people have that confidence for whatever reason, you know, we've reached a level of vaccination or for whatever reasons. Do you think there'll be even more of a hunger, more of a need to do this?
Yes, I do. I really do. And I think what, and I don't know, I mean, ask me again when it happens, right? But I honestly believe, yes, that there is going to be a massive party. But I think in this period, people are developing this confidence. Do you know what I mean? There's a desire to get back in front of, or with people who you can hug or just stand beside. Goodness, and so that hunger has also brought a confidence in them that now, whilst they're singing at home and they're giving everything, it's just like, okay, yeah, I can sing. There's going to be a need for them just to be able to release in front of people as opposed to just their four walls. And so I think it's going to be, there is something, I honestly, I don't know what is going to happen, but I'm excited for whatever it is, because I know it's going to be beautiful in so many ways. I mean, it can't not be. Do you know what I mean? If like getting people back in a room to sing, you know, 3 or 4 part harmony is going to be incredible, but also just having people be able to embrace each other and just get back to our basic human desire of being with people and seeing people's faces and, you know, hearing people's voices in the live is something that we need. So there's going to be an explosion. And I don't know
when it's going to be, but you're going to be there.
I'm going to be
lighting the match.
Listen, literally, I cannot wait. It's going to be amazing.
Mark, I feel like we could talk. We've got so much more we could talk about, but I've got a couple of questions just to close the conversation. Go. First thing is, Mark, I'm creating a playlist, and so every guest I have on is selecting one vocal performance or one song or one choral piece or whatever you want to call it for the listeners of the podcast to enjoy. Is there one that you could select for us, please, for me to add to the list?
Sure. So that prayer that I prayed the year before Harry and Meghan's wedding, it was after listening to one of the it's just a beautiful piece of music by Richard Smallwood, and it's called Total Praise. It's an unbelievable piece of music. It's short, there aren't that many words, but it is so incredibly beautiful. And the reason I love it so much is because, yes, it's gospel. Yes, it's choral. Yes, I grew up listening to it thinking it was amazing, but it was then performing it in front of people who are not into gospel necessarily, or not singers, or, you know, it could be anywhere. Everyone gets it. And everybody asks for it again and again and again. And it is just, I mean, I know, every time I say it, I'm just like, man, you need to change that, man. Surely there's other pieces. But no, I mean, I watched a video with Richard Smallwood with it the other day, and it was just like, again, I'm just like, how has he done this? And it was after listening to that again, I just said, look, Lord, please let me arrange something that the world hears. And yeah, it was inspired by that.
Wow, so, it's a powerful song. Yeah. It's a powerful song.
You know it, right?
No, well, just from just the way you're talking about it, I'm not familiar with it, Mark. So I'm going to go and listen to it right after this conversation. Add it to the playlist.
Listen, it's unbelievable, James. Right? It's 3-part harmony, and it's just, do it. Put it on there, man. People will love it.
Thank you so much. I will do. And then finally, look, I think people will be able to draw so much from this conversation, from your wisdom. Not just about singing, but about life in general. And that's kind of my hope for this podcast, that we can just open out the conversation about singing But as my final question, what life lesson has a life in singing taught you?
A life lesson in singing. Wow, that's a really open, wide question. I think it's taught me acceptance. Yeah, an acceptance of everybody. Everybody has a voice. I used to say something many years ago that if Stevie Wonder had been influenced by somebody else and decided that he wanted to take on their voice, then we wouldn't necessarily have Stevie Wonder as we know him today. And I say that because there's an individuality in each of us, and as a choral leader now, I have to, or I want to, or there's a need in me to accept everybody, no matter who you are. You've got a voice. So whether your voice is, you think it's a little scratchy or you think it's out of tune, it's very unique to me, and therefore I accept it with open arms. Come on in, be part of this.
Mark, that's a beautiful way to end. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you.
It's a pleasure, James. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you so much to today's guest, Mark De Lisser, for that energising and inspiring conversation. And I hope that there's something that you can take from that, either to do with singing or just some more general life lessons. And if you want to hear his choice for the playlist, which is Total Praise by Richard Smallwood, you can hear that on the podcast playlist, which is in the show notes. If you click on that, it'll take you through to Spotify and you'll hear that song as chosen by today's guest, Mark De Lisser. If you want to find out more about Mark, you can go to his website, markdelisser.com. Again, that is in the show notes. And his amazing arrangement that we were talking about of Stand By Me by the Kingdom Choir is on YouTube. It's been viewed millions and millions of times. And again, that is in the show notes as well. If you've been inspired by any of the themes in today's conversation, you might be interested in checking out my book, Do Sing, Reclaim Your Voice and Find Your Singing Tribe, which aims to inspire people and equip them with the tools to go out and start singing, whether it's at home or when you're allowed to after coronavirus lockdown ends, in an actual choir. Now, if you listen to podcasts regularly, you know what I'm going to say next. I really want to help get the word out about singing and about this podcast, and you can do this for me by just subscribing and by giving it a rating on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. That really does help with the algorithm, and it means that the podcast will show up and be available to more people. And if there's someone who you think that would like to hear today's conversation, please do send them a link and share the love. Thanks again to Mark, and also thanks to John Elliott, who's edited and produced today's podcast. John also wrote the beautiful music that you can hear in the podcast. So thanks very much, John. I do hope you can join me next time for episode 2 of This Is Why We Sing. I've got another amazing guest lined up for you. And so until then, keep smiling, keep singing, and thanks for listening.